Tom really doesn't need an introduction, and I'll let him explain what he's doing and why he's here tonight. This is really about learning more of what's going on in the current political situation. I thank you all for coming, and Tom, thank you for coming. Thank you very much.
Somebody said as I was coming in, they indicated that this may not be the most friendly crowd I've ever addressed. I explained to them that I have not seen anybody yet throwing rocks through the window, which has happened to me at other venues and on other occasions, so I think this will be okay one way or the other. Well, thank you very much, first of all, for letting me join you this evening, and I have to explain, I had to leave for a little bit outside because I have tinnitus, which is a really annoying little problem, and this room is just a cacophonous sort of noise factory, and I had to get out there for, and anyway, we did an interview outside, so I'm sorry I was late coming back in. Okay, so, well, where to begin? The steps I have taken, which I know to be both controversial and extremely disconcerting to a lot of folks, I'm astounded in a way at how many people I knew were friends who would be angry with me or who would disagree with me, because I've been a Republican for 45 years. But I am amazed at the vehemence at which some of the folks who disagree with me have stated their opposition. And in a way, I find it kind of a refreshing thing, because it does mean people care about these things, and that's good, because I do too. I make the decisions I make, I say the things I say, and I do the things I do because I do care a great deal about issues. Issues, for me, that's the lifeblood, not parties. I have to tell you, parties have never been, and I mean, I've been a Republican, as I mentioned to you, up until recently, for 45 years. I registered as a Republican when I was first eligible to vote. But it wasn't that difficult to make the transition to a different party. And that's because parties, in my mind anyway, are not things to which anyone should hold great allegiance. They're just mechanisms. I have said, I know on more than one occasion, that and I've told this to Republican groups for as long as I can remember. And if any of you have heard me speak, you know that, and in the recent past especially, you may remember that I've said to you and to Republicans every time I speak, when I take an oath of office, whether it is a state legislator, whether it was a state legislator many years ago, or a congressman more recently, there's not a word in that oath about the party. You are not taking an oath to a party, nor are you taking an oath to an executive, the president or the governor. You're taking an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. That's my true allegiance, far greater than any other I have, and have ever had. When I was in the Congress of the United States, I was often confronted by the leadership, angry with me for my votes, angry with me for the criticisms that I would heap upon the president, mostly because of his immigration policy, but usually, frankly, it was more often than not about the fiscal policy of the Republican Party and of the President of the United States. And it is certainly true that one day I was leaving my home in Alexandria, Virginia, and I got this little call on my cell phone, and it said White House. And I thought, wow, I don't get those kind of calls, even as a member of Congress, even as a Republican, very often. And I said hello, and the guy goes, or the lady said, hold for Karl Rove. I said, okay. And I had, the day before, I had given an interview to the Washington Times. Now this was 2002, because it was just not too long after the 9/11 event, and the president, by the way, at that time, George Bush was riding the high tide of his popularity, about 80-some% positive poll ratings. And I said to the Washington Times that if we had another event like 9/11, and if we had done no more to actually secure our borders than we had done up to that point in time, that I believed that the blood of the people killed in that event would be on the head of the President of the United States, George Bush, and the Congress of the United States, which allowed that kind of situation to occur. I'd given that the day before. I had not seen the paper, but when I said hello to Carl, I said, "How are you this morning?" I said, "Hello, Carl, how are you?" And he said, "I was a lot better before I read the newspaper." And I said, "Well, I haven't read it yet, but I think I know what you may be calling about." You know? And so we got into a discussion. He called me a traitor to the party, a traitor to the president, and by the end of the conversation, he said, "I don't want you to ever... You're never going to darken the doorstep of this White House." Those are his exact words. And I was really upset by that because my wife loved this thing called the Christmas ball. And she liked to go to that. Luckily, they still invited us to that because they invite every member of Congress to go to the Christmas ball. Other than that, I couldn't care less about the fact that he... And I said to him something like, I mean, by that time we were sort of in this 9th grade schoolyard fight mode and screaming at each other. And I said, I don't remember the welcome mat ever being out for me, number one. And number two, it's not your blanking house. And so that was the unfortunate conversation that we had, and subsequent to that I really never did get invited back. But as I say, I don't care. I wasn't elected for that purpose. I didn't seek office to be invited to the White House. I really don't care about that. And I had a purpose for running. I had a purpose for doing what I was doing. It was completely disconnected to the kind of Washington environment that I was found myself operating in. Especially when I did not believe that the party was doing what it should be doing. I did not believe that it was representing certainly my ideas of what the Republican Party was all about, supposed to be about. I remember that the favorite phrase they would use for a long time was, we're going to steal a page out of their book, meaning out of the Democrats' book, because they believed, the leadership believed, that was going to keep us in power. Because after all, it put the other guys in power. I don't know why they didn't think about the fact that, the contract with America threw the other guys out. And now we were in, and it was a different environment, but it didn't matter. We were in power, and that was the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal was to achieve power. Understand why? You have to have power in order to govern. But I don't know, sometimes, I have to tell you, even then I became quite... concerned about this philosophy, that the acquisition of power is the ultimate goal. Because then you begin to relinquish things that are important to you because you think you have to in order to achieve that goal. And then once you get to that goal, what does it matter? What does it matter if you've gotten the power, but you are no longer the loyal opposition? What if you have stolen so many pages out of your opponent's book that you become your opponent? What does it matter then that you've done all the work and you get all the people excited and go out and work hard? I'll tell you right now that I believe that perhaps, just perhaps, depending upon what happens in the near future, that perhaps McCain's failure is the best thing that ever happened to America.